Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about how user insights, creative solutions, and deep technical knowledge help to innovate the humble guitar case. Like all good stories, there was a catalyst, obstacles were encountered, but in the end, we had a resolution. So let me first tell you about our characters. Starting with my group, Cobalt Design. Cobalt's role was both as actor and director in this production. We had to flesh out the original vision, manage creative and technical professionals, and produce a performance that would drag the punters in. The rest of our cast, of course, there are musicians and their hired muscle. And then we've got the gurus who can turn pieces of wood into exquisite musical instruments. And where does our story start? Our story starts in the most unlikely of places, airport check-in counter. This is where a guitarist leaves their guitar, the most precious possession they have, the thing that's their means of creative expression. This is where they hand it all to, the baggage handler. And this is what they fear the most, a broken case and their precious guitar destroyed. Or at least this is what happens too often when they use traditional guitar cases that haven't really changed in over 100 years. Let's now backtrack to where our story starts. Australia, 1946. Two brothers start a company in suburban Melbourne making guitars. They call the company Maton, and within a few years, Maton are the biggest name in guitars in Australia. Over 70 years and successive generations, the number of big names in music who have played, owned, and created wonderful music on Matons has grown. From the Beatles and the Seekers to the Wiggles, from Keith Urban and Paul Kelly to Tommy Emmanuel, to name but a few. Throughout, Maton have built their guitars with real love, and their customers felt the same customers' pain when their guitars were damaged on tour. So in 2015, they decided that they would have guitar cases as good as the guitars that went in them. And so they engaged Cobalt. Cobalt are pros. We make our living designing and engineering products for large multinationals and emerging startups. We are seriously creative, which means we have a lot of processes and communications. For the Maton case, we went back to basics. How do you protect something really sensitive from bumps and being squashed? Much of design thinking is about working out what the problem is to solve. And design practice is taking existing technologies and creating something new. So we looked at helmets and how they have a very snug fit. We looked at airbags and rigid cells to see how they protect the contents. And we looked at blow-molded bottles, how they're cheap, lightweight, and protect a very strong protection. Many people think of engineering as practical and sensible, which it is, and design as only concerned with appearance. At Cobalt, we see both elements, rational and emotive needs, as valid. A product must reliably work. That's Design 101. But how a person feels when they're using a product is something you can't leave by chance. So going back to the characters in our story, we knew that Maton and musicians cared about how the product would look, and we knew that roadies and baggage handlers needed a product that worked. Out of all of our insights, we combined them into a short list of design ideas, and from there, an agreed design and early prototypes were made and tested, until at last we were ready for production. May I present the Maton case. A guitar is a complex equilibrium of structural timbers and veneers and precisely tensioned springs. Our case is to protect this amazingly sensitive instrument better than any other case. We'll see what it's like afterwards. Other guitars are generically shaped to suit a wide number of brands and sizes. This results in a sloppy, loose fit, and the gaps in between compound the acceleration that happens by external forces. In contrast, our case for Maton has an engineered and tailored fit. Traditional development takes what is and tries to improve it. Cobalt's process is uninhibited by tradition. We first understand what's required, and then we find technologies and materials that best meet those targets. This is what innovation looks like to us. So how does this story end? Hopefully, Maton end up selling many guitars and continue to build their brand based on being first to market, fresh and smart. MUSOS will never have their Matons damaged again, and roadies and baggage handlers can breathe easier as well. As for Cobalt, we'll continue to do what we love, designing products that help make the world a slightly bit more pleasant place to be. And we'll also strive for recognition, because what professional industrial designers and mechanical engineers do is innovation in 3D. Product designers create the everyday things that can make small but important differences to our lives.